training to be a driving instructor, right? I've been through the system. This will be the third time now, right? So, I know what you're going to say, like, why keep bothering? Yeah, good point. You obviously can't do it. Why keep bothering? But yeah, I'm persistent, if nothing else. Persistent and a little bit thick. Um, quite a bit thick, clearly. What was the saying? Yeah, so I've been through the system twice already. So basically, how it works is you do your theory test, and then from the day you pass your theory test, you've got 2 years to complete the other two tests. Now, you do your theory test, and then you do an advanced driving test, and then basically you get 3 attempts at that. So you get 3 attempts to pass. If you fail all three, you have to wait till the 2 years is over and start again. And then if you pass that one, you go on and do basically you do a lesson, and the examiner sits in the back of the car and watches what you do, basically. And if you pass that, you're a driving instructor, my friend. You are a driving instructor. And if you fail that 3 times, then you have to wait for the end of the 2 years and start again. I hope I've explained that well enough as a basic idea. So, I have been really lucky. So, I've done the theory test and passed it first time, all 3 times. Okay, so I've done it this time around. I've completed it. So happy days on that. But the day I passed my theory test, which was about 3.5 months ago, I booked my advanced driving test. I feel relatively okay about it. There's always a chance of making a mistake and, costing yourself the win, if you like. But I feel relatively confident. I've done some training on it, and I've passed it first time, last 2 times. I feel okay about it. So I've booked that, and 3.5 months later, I'm still waiting, not for the test date, but to actually have a test date. So at the minute, my test is on hold, and I'm waiting for them to be able to fit me in for it, which isn't ideal when you've only got 2 years, and the test you keep messing up on could be another, 6 months wait after passing this second test. I hope you're still following. So you get 3 attempts, but you've got to get them in the 2 years. So I need to get this second test out of the way ASAP, so that I can have as much time as possible on the test that I keep messing up on. However, obviously before 2020, no problem. I'd have done it by now. And the first time round, I got it in pretty quick. So, happy days. The second time round was after 2020. In fact, it was 2023 or 2022. I think I started, and then started practicing for the theory and that. And I did the tests in 2023, early 23. And again, by this point, I'd done it. I was on to the third one. Happy days. Okay. This time around, so that time around, 2022, 2023, they were prioritizing driving instructor tests. So they were making sure the senior examiners, or whatever they call them now, were doing our tests and not just the learner tests, if you like. So, happy days. We kind of jumped the queue a little bit. I know that must have been annoying for learners, but great for us. But now they're not doing that. So now they're not prioritizing us. They're not prioritizing instructor tests, to get it right. And we're waiting in the queue like everyone else, which, I'm not saying that is unfair. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's probably the most fair way. But when there's a queue around the entire country of what I believe to be, and I may not get this exactly right, and forgive me if I am wrong, but I believe was about 45,000 learners That's not including people like me waiting for instructor tests. Yeah, so and another thing as well is, the instructor tests are considerably more expensive as well, and the problem as well for us is, if we don't get it done in the 3 years, then we have to go back and do the other two tests again and get back to the third one. Which I know that if a learner doesn't do it in the 2 years, because you guys have 2 years too, then you've got to do your theory test again. But the theory test for a learner is about 20 quid, something like that, 20, 30 quid. Whereas my theory test was 87 quid. And then your driving test is about 67 quid, I think. Mine is 111. So, the financial implications of not being able to get it done are incredible, really, for us. And I know that learners have forked out for stuff, but then we have to do a certain amount of training before we can do the third test as well. So you've got to do 40 hours to qualify to do the test. Sorry, I was watching that postman because he started walking towards me, and I got a little bit nervous that we were going to be at the same point at the same time, if you get what I'm saying. So, what was I saying? Yeah, so, that I've, and this isn't a flex by any stretch of the imagination, okay? I'm just saying this so you get some idea. But I reckon, as a rough idea, I have spent over 10 grand on tests and training for this job. Like, that's how bad I want to do this thing. Like, it's not just yeah, that'll be a good laugh, that'd be a bit of a bit of a higher income than your average job. I'll do that. That'll be a bit of a skive. Sitting in a car all day, lovely. It's like, no, like, I really want to do this, and I really want, my goal with it is not to be an average instructor. I don't want to be the average, because unfortunately the average isn't as good as it should be. I want to be one of the best in the industry. I tell everyone, and I'm sure they laugh at me when I say I've done 6 Part 3 tests and failed them all miserably, but I want to be one of the best in the industry. The only good thing is each time I have to go back and do it, it's making me put more and more and more effort into it, more and more of myself into it. Things you get told when you first start training by other people in the industry, not your trainers. Your trainers shouldn't tell you this, but you'll hear other instructors tell you this. Is if you get to your third attempt at either of the 2 tests, they'll just pass you because they know how expensive it is. I can tell you categorically, not true. Absolutely, 100% not true. And I think I had the mentality when I first went through the first time round was, oh well, if I get to the third attempt, it doesn't matter too much how bad it is because they just pass you. I, like an idiot that I am, I believed it. So I went in truly believing that would happen, and it didn't.